Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this. My name is Nico House, host of the political radio show Mi Casa Es Su Casa, which you can catch Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on YouTube, on Facebook Live, or on awakeradio.us. That, once again, is Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those of us who have been paying attention to the mainstream media, yesterday we finally were able to get a little laugh, a little chuckle, a little hardy har har, because although Donald Trump's press conference left a lot, and I do mean a lot, a hell of a lot to be desired, there was one positive, comical spin that many of us who, like I said, who have been paying attention to what the mainstream media, in particular CNN, has been doing, got a little laugh. Donald Trump called CNN for what it is and what it has been this entire news cycle, and that is he called them fake news. That's after repeatedly ignoring the White House correspondent's questions. White House correspondent apparently works for CNN also. Here, take a look for yourself.
Attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect. Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state
She's
categorically,
asking a question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No, I'm
give
not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not
Go
appropriate.
Now, it's not a lot of times I agree with Donald Trump. But if you don't agree with Donald Trump, well, then I have some unfortunate news for you. Donald Trump, for one of the very few times, is absolutely right. And here are 6 times, just 6 of the many times, that CNN has proved to be one of these fake news sources that it itself has condemned so many times. First, we have Donna Brazile. After CNN repeatedly said that they were, unbiased in this Democratic primary race, it was found out that one of CNN's contributors, Donna Brazile, ended up giving Hillary debate questions, not once, but twice. Obviously, that is illegal. That is a form of rigging. That is a form of fraud. Obviously, Donna Brazile denied giving Hillary Clinton the questions prior to being let go from CNN. But not only did she deny giving the questions, but she proceeded to talk about Russia over and over and over again anytime she was ever asked about her giving questions to Hillary Clinton's camp before the debate started. The next example we have of CNN being an arbitrator of fake news is the exit polling. As many of you know, exit polling has been used as a very sufficient and efficient way to find out if rigging has taken place. Anything anything outside of the 2% margin of error is considered election fraud or voter fraud, some type of fraud. In this case, obviously, it was election fraud in the Democratic primaries. Now, once CNN's exit polling had been off ridiculously for time and time again, after each important primary race, they finally just said, you know what, screw it. We're just going to not have exit polling put up at all. And so they canceled the contracts with their exit polling companies, and there was no more exit polling, so we couldn't see. Now, what's important to understand is that this exit polling and the actual outcome turned out to be sometimes 5. I believe one case was 10% off. They were constantly wrong. And it wasn't the exit polling that was wrong. It was simply election fraud was taking place, and CNN absolutely refused to mention it. And that is another thing that CNN failed to do. And for all intents and purposes, we almost are certain at this point that there was election fraud. And CNN absolutely refused to cover any of it, even the possibility of election fraud amongst in the Democratic primary. They were so focused on Hillary Clinton and then focused on the debacle that was the Republican primary race, that they completely just ignored election fraud at every turn. It's not like this stuff wasn't well documented. There were lawsuits across the country, and CNN refused to cover any of them. They did not cover the drops, the voter registration drops that happened in New York. They didn't cover the many lawsuits that happened in Arizona. They declared Hillary Clinton the winner of the Democratic primary, called her the presumptive nominee before California even had a chance to vote. She was not the winner. And not to mention, they also went on to say that they went on to start counting the superdelegate votes, which is something that had not been done prior to this election season. In fact, it wasn't done until the Iowa caucus, which many of you are familiar with, where Bernie Sanders actually started to beat Hillary Clinton, which was highly unexpected for everyone. I don't think anyone expected him to win that one. And it was obviously the first race of the Democratic primary election, and Bernie Sanders took a marginal lead, and then boom, all of a sudden Hillary Clinton jumps up, and we're like, well, where did that come from? They say, oh, well, superdelegates, you forgot to count those, where superdelegates don't vote until the end of July. So of course, at this point, we realized that there were bias towards Hillary Clinton, ridiculously so, egregiously so, and that's just another clear example of how CNN has been fake news. We can also go on to look at cutting off Breonna Keller mid-sentence in the middle of her report about Hillary Clinton being a propagator of the 1994 crime bill. Now, everyone knows this, but you also have to remember what that crime bill did to a lot of African American families. It broke up a lot of homes of which are being luckily replenished with those victims of that crime bill because of the pardons that Barack Obama has given in recognition of the legalization of marijuana happening across the country. She was a strong proprietor of that. If you all remember super predators, yeah, that's still a thing. That's still real. And Breonna, Miss Breonna Keller, was actually speaking on this, doing responsible journalism, and she was cut off mid-sentence. And this wasn't the only time that she was cut off mid-sentence. This has happened time and time again on CNN, where people are cut off. And this has also happened time and time again, not only on CNN, but in MSNBC, NBC, and others, where people were either fired or threatened to be fired if they ever spoke negatively of Hillary Clinton again. We can also look at the WikiLeaks extravaganza. You can pick your poison on that one. CNN, of course, if anyone noticed this, I don't know if you were paying attention, you did notice this. CNN was the first to report on the Russia thing. The Russia hacking. I don't know what they describe this. They want to believe hacking is. It's not exactly how hacking works, but whatever. That's what they call it. There's a reason that CNN was the first to report it. If you all know, CNN was also the main mainstream media that was covering the DNC convention. This is around the exact same time that Guccifer 2 dropped the leaks that he himself had put out that actually had nothing to do with WikiLeaks at all. And then the Russian narrative started being talked about during the Democratic primary at the exact same time that there was an extremely large protest of a ridiculous proportion. There was a whole stage outside the Democratic convention. There were performers, there were speakers, independent citizen journalists, independent journalists, big news sources, including myself, speaking at these events, speaking at town hall. City Hall in Philadelphia, downtown, where thousands of people came to gather in protest of the DNC convention and what was to take place that day, which was the coronation of Hillary Clinton. CNN did not cover that, but they proceeded to talk about how Russia, with absolutely no evidence, by the way, but how Russia was the perpetrators in the hacking of information by the DNC. And afterwards, soon after, they started to claim that Julian Assange had been working with Russia, neglecting to remember the fact that they did say that Guccifer too was the one who was working with Russia in the beginning. And Guccifer too and Julian Assange are not the same thing. I mean, this is just simple fact. They're not the same person. WikiLeaks dropped as a result of Guccifer 2's leaks because he drops the WikiLeaks acts on an algorithm that essentially drops information based off the popularity in the mainstream media and also social media. And because of the Guccifer 2 was internationally trending, and the DNC leaks at that point became internationally trending, although the mainstream media of the United States tried to black it out. The WikiLeaks ended up dropping more information, and then after that, Julian Assange ended up taking control of the process. Well, him and his colleagues took control of the process and started releasing information bi-weekly, as you all know at this point. Chris Cuomo, CNN's Chris Cuomo, at this point, another example, said that reading WikiLeaks was illegal. I didn't know that reading things on the internet were illegal now. A lot of us are probably going to jail. I didn't know it was illegal to read unencrypted emails. If you wanted them, if you wanted these secrets to remain secret, I can understand if you would have kind of had a point. If you say, okay, these are encrypted emails, they're labeled secret, they're labeled confidential, whatever. But they weren't even that. They were just regular emails that got leaked and handed off. It's not illegal to read non-codified emails, but not only is it not illegal, but the UN has gone out of their way to exonerate Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, saying that these emails were not hacked. Now, this is the internet, Mr. Chris Cuomo, CNN. There's nothing really illegal to read. There's very few things in that category. But emails from the DNC with people who are somewhat important but don't have government jobs, so their jobs aren't important enough that they get to not have their information or their emails read if it's put out on the internet. I see people get their naked pictures put out on the internet all the time. It's not illegal to, look at those. I see embarrassing pictures that get, leaked through people's phones, leaked through their significant others, whatever. It's not illegal to look at those. But because it's the DNC, though, it's illegal to look at those. It's illegal to look at those emails. But it wasn't illegal to look at the Republicans' emails, the same emails that WikiLeaks leaked about the Republicans, which eventually led to George Bush and Mr. Cheney being put up for war crimes. No. Those aren't illegal to look at. But because the DNC, it's illegal to look at. Yeah, nobody believes that, Chris Cuomo. Now, we can also look at one final thing, which is the Bernie Sanders blackout. I don't even know why I have to even delve into this issue, but for those who are watching for the first time, it is important to have an understanding just how bad they blacked him out. A Harvard study confirmed that not only was Bernie Sanders blacked out from just about every type of mainstream media, specifically and most importantly CNN. If they did speak of him, CNN, it was completely and totally negative every single time. Obviously, we expect this from Fox News, but CNN is supposed to be an unbiased arbitrator of truth and information. However, they would label him, they would attack him, they would misconstrue his words, they would call him a sexualist, a sexist, not sexualist. They would call him a sexist. They would go out of their way to say socialist, but have a negative undertone to their voices, and then purposely make him have to, correct them and explain what a democratic socialist is. To purposely waste his time and, the American people's. Obviously, as we know, Donna Brazile from CNN gave Hillary Clinton information regarding the debate so that she would have the upper hand and an advantage. The list goes on. Just say his plans are not feasible. Say that he was yelling at Hillary Clinton. Say they called him a liar. Oh goodness gracious! It was just no fair coverage of Bernie Sanders and who he was as a person. They constantly tried to call Hillary Clinton a champion of children and African American rights, which unfortunately is just not true. And Bernie Sanders actually was all those things they tried to call Hillary Clinton. But whenever they were called out, they did not portray Bernie Sanders as who he was, but as the person that would have been easiest for Hillary Clinton to beat. So the next time you think that CNN isn't fake news and that Donald Trump was wrong calling them so, think again. He's absolutely right. I'm glad he called him out. I don't always agree with Donald Trump, but in this particular case, I absolutely do. So comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Have a good day.